Yeah, namaste, sir. In fact, when you brought out the point about education, it's my observation that a lot of the times we have binaries that we are taught in school. That if let's say a math problem is given, there is a one particular way to approach it, and that's the only way. Unfortunately, because probably the teacher knows only that way. But sometimes when we end up, taking different paths to the same answer, we probably should, we should get the same answer. There is a sense of, like deleting away some of those answers, saying, okay, no, you should, take the same path to get this particular answer because the person on the other side may not understand it. So how do you think we should create this system of, probably quantum, not having binaries in the system itself?
Well, I would say that we start teaching our children first to accept diversity. That is something very important. And there have been traditional ways in which you have been made to accept diversity. Like for example, I said just now the poetry of Kumaraguru. Now, if you look at all our systems, for example, you take the famous Jain Saptabanki. The Saptabanki can provide, if you make a child draw a truth table based on Saptabanki, he would understand or she would understand that there are different points rather than 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1, there are various other stages. For example, in Saptabanki, they use the term Avyakta. Avyakta is undefinable. So, this undefinable nature is something that comes with all the systems. And it is this undefinable nature that contains in it in involuted form all creativity. Just teach the children Saptabanki and just allow them to understand reality through that. So, once you start doing this, and of course, this is a very tough thing that I am talking about, create a first standard syllabus in which you can tell the children to look at one physical phenomenon through all these different windows. It may be a snail, it may be a mathematical problem, it may be a flower. Make the children look at that through all these different windows, and then you will understand that it has very high potential. For example, the Buddhist philosophy has a concept called dependent causation. Now, dependent causation is something that nothing happens independently. There is always a relation. Gregory Bateson, a very famous system biologist, he makes this statement. He says, he uses, in fact, he studies this system, his philosophies and everything, then he says, it is not the halls that evolves and it is not the grass that evolves, it is the relation between the grass and the halls that evolves. Have this framework and then look at evolution, you will find that it is the web that evolves along with the organism. So, from the organism, you move to the strands that connect the organisms to other organisms and you study evolution, which will be qualitatively different from the way you have been taught to study evolution. I am just giving one example like this. So, it is a very tough job. I am not telling it is very easy. Everything is already ready-made. We can take it and we can use it for creating a curriculum. But the moment you start doing it, you will be able to see the kind of difference that you can make. Because already it is there. The child goes, for example, we have, as children, we were taught in our houses in South India, I mean southernmost part of India, okay, this thing about this poetry, which we were told if you recite all these, before you go to exam, you will get good marks. So we memorized it, we recited it. We never understood the meaning of it. We recited it. Then, after I have gone, I have become a, what you call an atheist and all this is just nonsense. They made me mug up and all those kind of things. Then I was reading about certain things in linguistics and others. Then this thing came to me that particular verse we studied, Chokkum Purkum Vira Minyanam. That on the way, as he goes, he says this, okay, the poet. As he goes, he says this, Chokkum Purkum Vira Minyanatin Tot. And what the meaning is, the substratum in which the word and the meaning of the word are connected is the gnosis or the consciousness. So it is from the consciousness that the word and the meaning arise. Now this is something that is a deep linguist could understand, and this is something they have taught me as a 8-year-old child. So you had a system that taught you these things. Again, I am not saying that Kumara Guruparar knew about Noam Chomsky or whatever the debates that are happening in linguistics, but he had provided me a framework. It has been there. Nobody told me that through this framework you look. Nobody teaches you Abhinava Gupta. See, Abhinava Gupta talks about Sakritaya, a literary concept. In the literary concept, what he says is Sakritaya is the author writes a poetry or an epic, and the person reads it. He becomes a Sakritaya when he gets into the same frequency as the author intended in this particular literature. Now, just think, this is a kind of a proto-understanding of mirror-neuron concept. Abhinava Gupta didn't know about neurons, Abhinava Gupta didn't know about mirror neurons, but if you know Abhinava Gupta, you will be able to understand the concept of mirror neurons better. So, this is something that the treasure chest is there. You have to take it and you have to work on it intelligently. And as he said, it is not we knew everything already. Right. I personally believe Sahib Nayak and Nityananda are the worst tragedies that can happen to any religion. So the point is, it is not that. It is something more profound, something that requires our work, our intelligent hard work to update our system to the present knowledge and challenges.
Sir, you made an interesting claim in your speech regarding your the epistemological pluralism that is not present in the Western scientific framework or knowledge systems to analyze Indian culture and dharma. But I contend with that because I believe it's intrinsic bias rather than lack of pluralism in their epistemology. That is the reason for this distortions of what actually our culture is and dharma. So, what's your basis for making this statement that Western knowledge systems are epistemologically not plural enough to explain about India and culture?
Right. I have to here make a small CE, BCE like classification before new physics and after new physics. Okay, before new physics, definitely there has been this strangulation of this monocultural, rigorous monolithic system with Aristotelian basis, Christian theology. And if you are moving out of it, there will be consequences. After the Enlightenment period, that consequences were not there, but criticisms were there. Whereas, after the new physics came, for example, there is this famous statement by Albert Einstein that he finds the foundation under his feet moving away. That is the statement he made about new physics. A person like Albert Einstein. That is how most of the scientists found themselves. They were searching for framework. I will give one specific example for this. Werner Heisenberg, who discovered the uncertainty principle, he had done the basic frameworks. But the worldview that came out of it was kind of unacceptable for him. He was not able to put it forth in paper and submit it. He had a psychological block because he has come in a culture in which everything is certainty, everything is clear binary, everything is clear categories. So what he did was he took a sabbatical. He came to Shantiniketan. This is not something that I am making up. It is given in the interview by Werner Heisenberg himself to Fritjof Capra. It is part of the book called Uncommon Wisdom. You can get it very easily. And I will tell you the extension of this. So what happened was, like, he came here, he lived with Tagore for some time, he spent time, he observed Indian culture, And he understood that there can be cultures which don't care about this kind of certainties, this kind of fixed rigidities. Then he went back and he published his paper. This he says in the interview. Now what happens is, then I won't say the name, a famous politician somehow understands this in his own way, and he says that Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is based on Upanishads. Not based on Upanishads, but it was the culture that came from the Upanishads that gave him a clear vision to look at the things as they were and give. So the point is, now if you look at the West, they are still struggling. The Western epistemological people are still struggling. You are talking about postmodernism, that is the so-called wasteland and all that kind of things. And whenever they want to again have a basis for what they are discovering, somehow they again fall into an Indic language, an Indic metaphor. It is very interesting. David Bohm was talking to a sociologist. A physicist David Bohm was talking to a sociologist. And the sociologist says that, is it all not Leela and other things? And then David Bohm says, I have this beautiful metaphor that J. Krishnamurti told me. You have to see the universe as a flowering universe. Now this is a very interesting term. A flowering universe. Just think of how this metaphor could have come. From where it could have come. If you know Abhirami Andadi, which is chanted by almost every housewife in South India, in Tamil Nadu, of course, not them, English educated and all, just ordinary housewives, this village women, superstitious, they chant, they say, Aathale Ingal Abhirama Valliye Andamelam Poothale. You can understand the word, Andamelam Poothale. She flowers into the universes. An ordinary housewife saying her evening prayer, a statement that inspires through J. Krishnamurti, a famous quantum physicist. All I ask is, why not you allow this thing to be taught to the children? They don't have to believe the goddess. They don't have to take any of the belief system into them, but they can take the wonder. Look at the universe in a different way. So the point again I want to stress is, you have a pluralism here. You can move from Sankhya to Vedanta, from Vedanta you can jump to Saptabhanki, from there you can jump to Satkaryavada. There you cannot do that. From the Aristotelian logic you jump, you don't know where you are going to jump. Of course there is Spinoza and other things, but again, they have not created a big system out of Spinoza. Spinoza is there, yes. Alfred Whitehead is there, yes. But you don't have a concrete system. You haven't created metaphors and beautiful art and sculptures and Puranas out of it, which becomes part of your life.